activity, and that is CHAN 2027, to be hosted, of course, in West Africa. Away from the CHAN, Mark, let's go into a bit of European football before we can do golf and basketball. As far as European football is concerned, there's two things I would like for us to discuss. One is the climax to the English Premier League, and then at the end of that conversation, a summary of what's happening elsewhere across the top 5 leagues. And then two, of course, will be Champions League football this week. But let's start with the Premiership. Liverpool are champions, and they've won a record equaling 20th. Man United got there before them, even if they had got to 18 before Man United. They eventually have tied it. Is this the opening of a new dominant era for Liverpool? Remember that the Premiership has had spells in which different teams have dominated. And Liverpool have had the more number of spells. There's a time they dominated English football, earlier part of the 20th century, and then especially between 1977 and 1990, Liverpool were a very, very dominant force before the English League then changed its name to the Premiership, after which Man United took over as the dominant force. In recent times, of course, that has been Man City. In between, Arsenal had its spells, and so did Chelsea. Now, are Liverpool starting a new era, or is this a flash in the pan?
I think Liverpool could be starting a new era, Mark, a new era of dominance. Why? Because they've managed that big transition very well from Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp was a very successful manager in the years he managed at Anfield. Klopp's problem actually was because he was competing with Pep Guardiola, who presided over the greatest Man City club in history. And obviously Guardiola had the funding and the backing of the Arab money, and I mean, he had some generational talents, people like Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva, and the likes. Now, we may forget, or rather, it is easy to forget that in the Pep eras of dominance, Liverpool are posting incredible totals in the Premiership. They were finishing second with 97 points, 94 points. They competed. They matched Man City for prolonged spells, by the way. In the years when City won, was it 4 Premier League titles in 5 years?
Yeah, they won 4 in 5. Because they won 6 of the last 7.
Liverpool
now 6 of 8.
They're actually putting up a formidable fight. It's just that City had just that little extra edge over them time and again. But when Klopp left, we wondered whether Andy Slot was going to manage that transition very well. And listen, I don't remember any manager who ever had who will have a better first season in charge of a new team in a new country with new players, and that is what Andy Slot has done exactly. I looked through that Liverpool team and asked myself, who is old? Because yes, Mo Salah has been their best player. He's probably on the wrong side of 30, but there are many other kids around that team whose better years are way ahead of them. I look at kids like Curtis Jones. I look at people like McAllister. I look at all these other chaps, Rob Elliott. I look at Luis Diaz. I mean, there is a certain core of that team whose better years are ahead of them. So in as much as, well, Trent is exiting, probably, I mean, Mo Salah may not have the kind of season he's had this season, and Virgil van Dijk is also on the wrong end of 30, but I see that they've retained the spine of that team. And when I look at the competition, Man City have got to rebuild, obviously. I expect some people to depart in the summer. We know that Kevin De Bruyne is leaving. I think United are still a long way off from the top 4 slots. I think Arsenal will probably be rivaling Liverpool again next season. But when I look at the team, the manager they have is just 46 years of age. I see a bit of stability in that team. I see continuity. I think Liverpool are going to probably make 1 or 2 signings in the summer. I don't think they're going to relax and rest on their laurels because Mo Salah committed his future to the club. I think they're probably going to be at the top for a couple of more seasons. Probably it won't be as easy as it was this season because I declared them champions in November. I think Arsenal are going to sign a striker. Who knows? Is it Jokeres? Wait and see. But I think if I was a betting man, I would probably put my money on Liverpool to defend the title in the 2025-26 season.
Well, yeah, Mark, they might defend that. I'm not even too sure about that, so I might disagree with you a little bit on them starting an era of dominance. Thing is, well, like, yes, they've done really well this season, and you're right about the average age of that squad, and right about the freshness of a relatively young manager, and all. But somehow I feel that so many chips fell in Liverpool's favour this year, even if they dominated. I mean, they deserved the championship, don't get me wrong, and they played the football to deserve it and everything. But I think that a lot of the collapse of the opposition had something to do with how it was eventually for them, because as we speak, as we come into this conversation this week, Liverpool have won the title. They are 15 points ahead of Arsenal on 82, Arsenal 67, and so basic, and then they're largely 20 points or better than virtually everybody else in the league. So it's looking like the opposition did not put up the fight that they should have. So while I agree with you on the fact that Arsenal will get a striker in, I see like you've underplayed the bit about how strong and how consistent that Arsenal team will be. Remember, Arsenal have got the same manager and the same core of players for several years now, while the title did not fall in place because of injuries at the wrong times this season, especially to Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz. But there were also, I think, absentees at the back every once in a while, because Arsenal have conceded the least number of goals in the Premiership with 3 or 4 games to play. And yet they had built the most formidable defense and the most formidable central defensive partnerships in Gabriel and Saliba, but there've been inconsistencies around those two, especially from the guys who've played at fullback. Today it's Calafiori, tomorrow is Timber, the other day is Tomiyasu, Ben White, and whoever. I believe that their championship contention next year will not be a double-digit difference. I believe it will be much closer. I believe that they can actually eclipse Liverpool and step off the line should Liverpool drop off. The standards, my worry for Liverpool is that the standards they've set in the first season of a new manager, it's quite a high bar, and it will be difficult for even them to match next season. They might have secured the futures for Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, but I believe that they were literally close to perfection as you can be, and the only way for them is down.
Mark, to counter your argument, I'll tell you that Liverpool, I mean, Arsenal are looking for a striker in the market. That's their priority in the market. Liverpool have got strikers who actually are going to play better next season than they did this season. I expect a much better season from Cody Gakpo. He had a good season, by the way. I look at Luis Diaz, and I think he's a very, very wonderful talent. Diaz hasn't had that extended run in the team, but I think Diaz can actually grow into a Mo Salah of sorts because he's a very gifted kid. I don't know if Darwin Núñez is going to start that club, but they had Diogo Jota was in and out of the team. Listen, Mark, Liverpool have got a plethora of attacking options. They've got a solid midfield, and like I said, they're going to make 1 or 2 signings in that team. You make a valid case about whether they can have an injury-free season because they were least affected of the injuries, unlike Arsenal. I look at the depth that they have in the squad. Aside from Mo Salah, because no team is going to replace Mo Salah, I can't think of a player, and maybe to an extent, maybe Virgil van Dijk, who is going to sit out for Liverpool and then they struggle to compete because they've got so many options all over their team, unlike say Arsenal.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, while I agree with you on that bit, whatever it is that will knock Liverpool down a little bit from the very, very high ground on which they stand right now, it might not be manifesting just the absence of an individual too. It will be like it's just tough to match certain standards when you set them, and I believe that's going to what's one of the things that's going to happen. I agree, by the way, that despite Salah's productivity, I think 33 goals in total in all competitions at this point, with a few games still to play, that the rest of the strikers could have actually scored more, because Cody Gakpo was second to him coming into this conversation, but they've been very low totals, especially for Jota and Darwin Núñez, but also for Luis Diaz. All those three can get more. Núñez might not stay, but they also still have
and Federico Chiesa.
They have Federico Chiesa, yeah. So they can be more productivity there, but definitely there'll be a drop, and it will start with Salah's. Perhaps Salah's numbers might drop a little bit. However, and it's not just that Liverpool will drop. It's just that Arsenal will step up their challenge, and it would help, of course, if Arsenal won the Champions League this year. They would come into the season even more satisfied, because I remember Liverpool on the domestic front had difficulties catching up to Pep Guardiola, despite running him really close. And what helped them then tip over the line eventually was that they won the Champions League first in 2019, before they eventually won that title in 2020, the league title off Guardiola. But it helped the confidence they brought out of the Champions League in saying they were the best in Europe, to cross the line that Pep had set. Now, that could work for Arsenal if, for example, they won the Champions League this year. They'd come back and say, you know what, we're ready now to be domestic kings as well. However, it's not the only opposition I expect for Liverpool next season. The transition that Man City are going to go through, one which has started this year, is not going to be one that is that's going to take many years. Rebuilding a new team for Pep is not going to be as difficult as is suggested, because the core of that team already is in place. And replacing Kevin De Bruyne and perhaps one or two others, Bernardo Silva, I see one or two others leaving, is while it will be tough on an individual level, as far as the unit is concerned, it won't be, because Pep has done this before. It's very easy to forget now, when you see Kevin De Bruyne and the things he has done with Erling Haaland and all, that this team actually once depended on David Silva, Yaya Toure, and Sergio Aguero. And they all left, and that transition did not take as long for Pep as you'd thought it might be. At the time when Silva left, I didn't see a better playmaker in Europe. At the time when Yaya Toure ran out of legs, I didn't see a better box-to-box midfielder in the world. And by the time Aguero left, he had broken every English Premier League record for foreign strikers. And I didn't think that even Erling Haaland could step into those boots and fill them the way he did. So I believe that while there is no other Kevin De Bruyne around the world, there will be a player of a different caliber, or one or two others who will come in, fill that gap in different ways.
And of course, you've got to trust that Pep has got such a very efficient scouting network that, believe me, if he already knows who's going to replace Kevin De Bruyne, you can be rest assured. And I wouldn't be shocked before the end of June, Man City have unveiled the sort of midfielder who's going to be replacing Kevin De Bruyne in that sky blue jersey, because Pep has such a very thorough spying network, and he as well got it wrong in the transfer market.
Right. Okay. We'll see. As far as the rest of the Premiership is concerned, Mark, is what we're left with now is that fight for Champions League places. Because while 1 and 2 are virtually settled, from 3 to 5 are actually not. Those are 3 places, and they're being fought for by 7 teams, or 6, let's say. And that is Man City, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Newcastle, and Aston Villa. So that's 5 teams fighting for those 3 slots, and it's looking really tough. What is your pick? Which 3 of those actually get the final 3 Champions League places in England, and which 2 miss out?
It's going to be tough. I think I have Nottingham, Manchester City, and probably Newcastle.
And Newcastle.
Yeah.
So you mean Chelsea and Aston Villa miss out?
Yeah.
Wow, it's tough. Between Newcastle and Chelsea, I agree with you on only on Man City. And I worry about Nottingham Forest hearts being broken, by the way. I hope that they do not suffer an end of season blip at the most wrong of times that will eventually knock them off. I saw Man City beat them in the FA Cup, and I'm beginning to realize that perhaps there's a bit of fatigue creeping into a squad.
I actually think it did Nottingham a world of good to be knocked out of by Man City, because believe me, if they had upset Man City and qualified for the FA Cup final at Wembley, it was going to be a very, very big distraction for them
in their fight for top 5, yeah.
But now they only have to focus on that one game, and listen, that Nottingham team can put on the kind of run they need in the last couple of games to finish in the top 4. And remember, they're third.
Yeah,
so they're in pole position in this discussion.
Yeah, they are in pole position, but the points difference is really small. It's just the 1 point, I think, separating, about the 2 points separating these five teams that we've talked about.